Hello and welcome to America, where we are here driving the new BMW X7. It's a brand new car and it's BMW's biggest ever X car. But what is it and how good is it? Well, these are the 5 key things that you need to know about it. And if you want to buy an X7 or any other new car, don't forget, go to whatcar.com and look at the new car buying section on our website to see how much money we could save you. So the first thing that you need to know about the BMW X7 is that everything about it is big, especially the front grille. Now, this kidney grille, BMW says, is the biggest ever that's been put on a BMW car. And to be fair, when the first pictures of it were released, the response was, we'll say, divisive. So the justification for that is, according to BMW, apparently buyers in America and in Asia like the striking, bold presence that it gives you. And actually in Europe, they kind of understand that people like a more kind of modest and conservative style of design. So that's a big clue that the big sales targets for this car are in America and in Asia. So what else is big about the X7? Well, the wheels. These are massive 22-inch alloys, and even the smallest wheels that you can get are 20 inches, which is big. But will that affect the ride badly? We'll have a look at that later.
As you can see, the whole car is massive. The distance between the front and the rear wheels is 3,105 millimeters, which is big enough for 2 Kia Picantos to drive through side by side. To put that into context, every measurement is bigger than a Range Rover's, apart from its height. The boot is bigger than a Range Rover's, it's longer, wider, it is a massive car.
Just how practical is the X7? Well, I mentioned earlier that the boot is bigger than a Range Rover. Let's take a closer look at that. So you'll notice that it gets a split tailgate as standard, which is a useful addition, which also the X5 gets. So you can see, even with all 7 seats in place, actually there's a decent amount of room, enough for a couple of suitcases, and you get some helpful underfloor storage as well, and a spare parcel shelf by the looks of things. Now, if you want even more room, then you have some buttons here that can help you put down all the seats with this maximum luggage button and this maximum sitting person button. But if we press this maximum loading button, then hold it down for an extremely long amount of time, and eventually the third row collapses, and then the middle row slides forward as well. When it's all down, you can see there is a massive amount of space on offer in the back of the X7. Really loads of space. This is a very practical, large car, and certainly a match, if not better, than a Range Rover as well. So we've mentioned that 7 seats come as standard, which is great. A Range Rover doesn't get 7 seats. And actually, if you spend £500 or £600 more as an optional extra, you can get 6 seats. Now, that might all sound a bit strange, you know, why would you spend more to get less? But actually, as you can see, you get a kind of more comfortable layout for that middle row. So it makes it slightly more luxurious for the people that are sat back here. You do sacrifice some practicality, but maybe you gain some comfort as well if you're only really regularly carrying 2 extra passengers in the back. So how much space do you actually get? Well, let's get inside and find out. Now, the driver's seat is in my normal driving position, and you can see, sat behind it, there's no real issues with space at all. There's even plenty of under seat room for my feet, and there's loads of headroom, loads of leg room as well. Really a nice, big, airy, spacious back seat here. And it's nice having these armrests as well in the 6-seat configuration. In the 7-seat configuration, you don't get that, but that's one slight luxury you have back here. And you also get some cup holders when you've got 6 seats as well. You can also see there's some USB ports in the rear, which is helpful, and the climate controls too. So, in the back, good, generous, comfortable. But what about the third row? Now, it's all very well having 6 or 7 seats, but if you can't really use them or if they're uncomfortable, then there's not really much point. Access into this third row is really easy compared to other people carriers and 7-seaters. It's very easy to get back into the third row. The only thing that can take a bit of time is getting the middle row back into its original position, because it's all electrically powered, so it takes a very long time for it to slowly move back and go where it was before. It's still going now. But you can see this is as far back as the middle row will go, and I've still got just about enough room to squeeze my feet underneath it, and there's a bit of leg room to spare as well. It's not particularly comfortable, but if I was going to be here on a long journey, maybe I'd ask this person to move forward a little bit. The only thing that's not particularly great back here is the headroom. It does feel a bit cramped, so it stops you from properly stretching out. and actually maybe a Land Rover Discovery offers a bit more headroom for third row passengers. But apart from that, it's impressive, and for adults in the back, it would be reasonably comfortable to be in here for a long time. So that's the third row. Let's slowly wait for this middle row to go forwards, and then we'll take a look at the front. Behind the wheel, there is, as you'd expect, unsurprisingly, loads of room on the inside of the X7. Plenty of shoulder room, it's a nice wide interior, loads of leg room, great adjustability in the seats. Electrically adjustable seats come as standard, and tons of headroom even with a sunroof as well. So there's no problem here. But now let's take a closer look at the dashboard and particularly the infotainment system. At first glance, this doesn't necessarily have a particularly big wow factor in the interior. That's something that can be said of the X5 and the 8 series. Those are cars that are very closely aligned to this interior design. So it's quite basic, it's not particularly flashy like the latest Mercedes interiors. What it lacks in visual pizzazz, it definitely makes up for in robust build quality. So this really is the best of the best when it comes to build quality. The nuts and bolts are all screwed in brilliantly, the materials are all top notch, and also you can see there's plenty of storage options available, a couple of cup holders here, and how cool is it that you can get a cooled and heated cup holder as well. That is slightly excessive, but undeniably cool. But the other thing that stands out is just how good the infotainment system is. Now, this is something that we're used to in the latest BMWs. For many years now, we've been very impressed with iDrive, and the latest iDrive 7.0 definitely doesn't disappoint. One of the reasons it's so fantastic is that it's packed with features, yes, but the other thing is that it's just so easy to use it, especially on the move. So you've got the option of using it as a touchscreen, which when you're parked up and you can fully concentrate it, is very simple to cycle through all the different menus, and you can even personalize the home screen as well. But when you're driving, touchscreens are more difficult to use because you've got to keep your concentration on the road ahead, obviously. So for those instances, you've got the helpful rotary dial down here, which has got a nice knurled finish on the outside of it, which again just helps to kind of boost the feeling of quality in this interior. So you can use this rotary dial with plenty of shortcut buttons as well. And you've got a voice command system that helps you control the functions of it as well. So all those different ways that you can control it means that this really is the best infotainment system that you can buy right now. And on top of all that, it is probably the sharpest touchscreen to respond as well. So plenty of other touchscreens, when you use the swipe and pinch and zoom functions on it, they're really laggy and you can see that they're really slow to respond, but no problems whatsoever in the iDrive system. It's really sharp, really crisp, and just very simple and enjoyable to interact with. So now let me tell you a bit about the X7 on the road. So the first thing to start with are the engines. Now at launch in the UK, you're going to have a choice of 3 engines. The range starts with the xDrive 30D, and xDrive in BMW terms just means all-wheel drive, and the 30D is a 6-cylinder diesel engine. And above that, you've got an xDrive 40i, which is a 6-cylinder petrol. And then topping off the range at the minute is a 50D, which again is a diesel engine, but with much more power than the 30D. Now, it's a similar lineup. In fact, it's identical to the X5. And at the minute, we've only driven the 40i in the X7. Now, this is a big, heavy car. It's 2.3 tons, which is basically 2 Ford Fiestas. Now, even with all that weight, the petrol engine actually feels like it has enough torque to pull the car along really quickly on the motorway. So it's a really flexible, impressive engine. But we suspect that initially, the xDrive 30D will be the pick of the engines in the X7. And that's because it still is likely, although we haven't driven it yet, it's likely to offer impressive, torquey, smooth performance, but with much more palatable fuel economy figures. Other points on how the X7 drives, so air suspension comes as standard, and the ride is actually really impressive. At low speeds, it can feel a little fidgety over really broken, rough roads, but on the motorway, it really smooths out and is nice and gentle, and really, the car's very quiet at a cruise too, so it's nice over long distances. And the steering, it's typical BMW really for a big SUV, very similar to the X5, but there isn't a great deal of feedback, but it's still smooth and accurate. The gearbox is super impressive. It's an 8-speed automatic and the changes are just completely seamless and it's very difficult to catch it out. So even if you ask for a quick burst of speed, there's really no problem in kickdown. It's very quick to react, very smooth. And overall, the way the car drives suits the car's nature. So it's big, it's heavy, but you don't necessarily feel like a big lumbering elephant behind the wheel. It's all very smooth, it's all very comfortable, and it will certainly be interesting to see how it compares with a Range Rover. And hopefully we'll be putting this car against a Range Rover and some of its other close rivals very soon.
As for the pricing, well, in the UK, the X7 starts from £72,155 for the xDrive 30D model, so it isn't cheap. If you want to seat 7 in comfort, a Land Rover Discovery will do the job for less money. Likewise, if you're not desperate for the X7 size, but you like the rest of the package, you may well be better off with the cheaper X5, which is still an excellent car. And then, of course, there's the Audi Q7, which is just about the best all-round SUV on sale, and that's also cheaper than an X7. However, if you're choosing between an X7 and a full-fat Range Rover, then the BMW is the cheaper car, while the Mercedes GLS is priced very closely to it.
So that's what you need to know about the BMW X7. And for much more on it, don't forget, head to whatcar.com to find our full extended written review of it and all of its key rivals. And if you want to buy an X7 or any other new car, then when you're on whatcar.com, go to the new car buying section to see how much money we could save you on your next new car. Remember, you can find out straight away, no need for awkward haggling, and we could save you thousands. And if you enjoyed this video, give us a like, leave a comment, let us know what you think about the looks of the BMW X7 especially, and subscribe.